This is the Berman Method podcast featuring Dr. Jake Berman and physician assistant Jenny Berman. We are here to treat problems and not symptoms. Disclaimer, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and not to treat anyone or to give medical advice. If you are interested in any information that we are giving and would like to use this for yourself, we recommend that you contact your primary care physician or reach out to us and ask us questions about yourself specifically. Enjoy!
And we're rolling the Berman Method podcast, where we are focused on treating problems and not symptoms. I'm Dr. Jake Berman here with my co-host,
Jenny Berman, physician assistant.
Jenny Bear Berman, for all of you that know her on a personal level. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We are David going up against Goliath, where the Goliath is the corporate medical system. We're saying it ain't right. You ain't doing it right. The corporate medical system is killing your health care, and we're here to expose the truth.
All right.
How's that for an intro?
I like it.
Was that fun?
Yeah. We talked all about treating problems and not symptoms 2 podcasts ago.
Was that 2 ago? Was that number 50?
50.
Can you believe we've done this 50 times?
Over 50 times
Over
now.
50 times
Yeah.
now. And even more, because I got another podcast, the golf podcast.
Oh, this is true.
I'm just like a full-time podcaster now.
You love it.
If you guys haven't heard, we have a golf podcast, not me and Jenny, but me and my co-host, Jan. We have a golf podcast. It's the Long Balls Golf Podcast. So check it out, subscribe, pass it along to any of the golfers in your life. We are essentially doing the same thing on that podcast too, talking about how everybody's focused on technique to improve your golf game. And you really should be focusing on the physical component of it, because that is the lowest hanging fruit. But neither here nor there. Let's get back to the Berman Method podcast, where we're focused on treating problems and not symptoms. The example that I love giving, because it's the clearest, is blood pressure medication. You have high blood pressure, you go to your GP, your general practitioner, your primary care physician, and what do?
Give you a medication.
To do what?
Lower your blood pressure.
Oh, they give you a medication to lower your blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But why is the blood pressure high to begin with?
Right.
And that's what we're focused on here. Because high blood pressure is just a symptom of something else. There's a problem somewhere else. And the way that it's presenting is with high blood pressure. High blood pressure is not the problem. High blood pressure is the symptom. So when you take a high blood pressure medication, you're treating a symptom, not the problem. Then the problem is that medication usually has a side effect that requires you to take another medication to treat that side effect, which also has another side effect, which requires to take another medication to treat that side effect.
We got it. It's a cascade.
Do we really got it, though?
Well, hopefully. Hopefully we're getting it.
We're getting it. 50 episodes into this. Hopefully people are starting to get it. Mm-hmm. Hopefully everybody listening to this is starting to question whether or not you should be doing what you're doing right now. Question everything. What is it? How does this saying go? The most important aspect of science is that you're constantly questioning it. So when everybody says, trust the science, believe the science, well, no, you should be questioning the science. Keep questioning it, because think about it this way. Do you know where the saying, don't blow smoke up my ass, comes from?
I do not.
You don't know?
I do not.
Does anybody out there listening right now know where the saying, don't blow smoke up my ass, comes from? I'm waiting for somebody to respond back through this podcast.
Where does it come from?
Don't hold me to the date. However, I think it's back in the 1800s or prior to that. When somebody would drown, they thought that the way that you resuscitate them and bring them back to life is by blowing smoke up their ass.
Is that true?
That is a true thing. Google it right now. Pull up your phone. Google it. I dare you. Go ahead. Do it.
Well, I don't know. So what's the point?
The point is, at that point in time, at that point in history, they thought that that was medically relevant. They thought that that was cutting edge and that that was going to resuscitate somebody, bring somebody back to life.
Okay.
Fast forward, let's give a more relevant example of back in the 40s and 50s, maybe even in the 60s, when you would go to your doctor and the doctor is smoking a cigarette. At that point in time, they didn't think that cigarette smoking was bad.
Mm-hmm.
What do we think about it now?
No, it'd be crazy if they were smoking in a doctor's office, let alone outside the building of a doctor's office.
Right. Did you pull it up?
I'm looking. I'm struggling to multitask right now.
So the next point is, fast forward to today. Let's use opioids for an example. Oxycontin, oxycodone, or whatever these opioids are. They are prescribed left and right, and it's an epidemic, right? People are dying. People are becoming addicted. It is a major, major problem, but it is approved by the FDA, backed by big pharma, pushing it. So what's it going to be like 50 years from now when we look back and say, oh my God, I cannot believe that opioids are legal, but marijuana isn't.
Right.
There you go. Let's get real political now.
Right.
This natural growing weed that grows naturally out in the wild, that's illegal. But this chemically composed, full of synthetic chemical drug is legal. We're going way off on a rant right now. Did you find it?
I did. It was actually back in the 1700s.
Oh.
Doctors literally blew smoke up people's rectums. Believe it or not, it was a general mainstream medical procedure used to, among many other things, resuscitate people who were otherwise presumed dead. It was such a commonly used resuscitation method for drowning victims, particularly, that the equipment used in this procedure was hung alongside certain major waterways. How did you learn that?
I just randomly Google things when you hear a saying and it's like, where did that saying come from? Like, that just really interests me. Don't blow smoke up my ass. That's where the saying comes from. So back in the 1700s, that they thought that that was the best thing.
Okay. So let's get to where we're going. We've talked about that. We've talked about opioids and marijuana. Where are you going?
Where I'm going with this is you really should be questioning if what you're currently doing is the right thing. Even if you're working with us, you should be questioning us, because sometimes we get caught in our ways and we can't see the woods for the forest or the trees for the forest, or however that saying goes. Google that one too. But you really should be questioning, is what you're currently doing the right thing or the best thing for this moment? Meaning that you have a great relationship with your primary care physician and that person prescribed you X medication. Is it relevant? Is it appropriate? Is it the best thing that you should be doing right now? So that's where I'm going with this. You should be questioning it. And that is to help us segue into two very explicit examples, one on my side, the physical therapy realm, and one on your side in the health and wellness realm, of very specific life-changing examples of people that we worked with that got stuck in the medical system, got caught up in the medical system, and luckily found us. And we ended up doing the exact opposite of what they had been doing, and their lives did a 180 because of it.
Right.
That's where I'm going with all this.
Got it.
So do you want to start or do you want me to start?
You can start.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Okay.
You're on a roll.
That's why I wanted to pass the reins off.
I mean, I can if you want.
Go for it.
Okay. So this was a hard one for me, choosing just one person whose life we change, because we do so many different things that we've had people who were addicted to sugar come off of sugar, individuals who were drinking every single night to now only having one drink a week, maybe if that. But this other individual came up in my mind first and foremost. And so I wanted to talk about him. And when he came to our practice, mid-50s, came to our practice.
He's in his mid-50s,
Currently,
not 1950s.
No, he is. So back at it, he was just miserable. He had a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis, ulcerative colitis, and one more, ankylosing spondylitis. So he was just constantly in pain. He was taking opioids or pain medications regularly. He was on steroids regularly to help with as an anti-inflammatory. Just felt like joint pain all the time was a normal thing for him, had debilitating back pain. It was a struggle to get to the office and to work through the day. He also had bloody stool all the time and thought that was just his way of life because of his diagnoses and the medications that he was taking. And that's what it is. Chronic stomach pain, headaches, fatigue, and he was overweight. And the overweight part of it certainly could have been a result of chronically taking steroids, but also because he couldn't do any physical activity with the amount of pain he was having. So when he came in, we started talking, and it was just all of these things he's experiencing are autoimmune conditions. And again, we have to go back to what is causing the autoimmune conditions? What is causing the breakdown of his gut lining and causing these particles to pass through and create an immune response? What is causing the breakdown of his gut lining to cause the UC and the bloody stool? There's something there.
What does UC stand for?
The ulcerative colitis. Sorry. Yes. So we took a step back and said, okay, you are taking a lot of medications. We are not going to take you off of any medications to start off right off the bat because we have to get the inflammation, the pain under control. So we did food sensitivity testing and identified a gluten sensitivity for him. The gluten was very severe. He also had a mild dairy sensitivity and some other kind of various foods. When we test, it shows us 184 different foods for sensitivities. We also will look at some allergies. We only look at 25 allergies because we know that the sensitivities actually could play a larger role. So we identified the sensitivities. We started a food elimination process, but with working with us every single week, we were able to replace all the foods we were subtracting out of his diet with something better for him so that he was not limited in his selections. He was not feeling deprived of his meal plan. We set him up with the proper macronutrients, meaning the proteins, carbs, and fat for his body so that we were getting active muscle recovery, but also getting the body to metabolize a little bit more efficiently and lower his blood sugar. Having an elevated blood sugar can lead to autoimmune conditions as well, but also fatigue and weight gain and improper sleep, which we need all of these things under control to be able to improve the inflammatory process. So all of this to say that we started looking deeper into what was causing the problem for these autoimmune conditions, eliminated the food sensitivities, got him started on some gut healing supplements that can help with regenerating the villi and the muscles. And then through this process, within 3 months, he had dropped over 25 pounds, but other than that was off of all pain medications and steroids. He is now not taking any prescription medications. He has normal stool without blood, has tons of energy, is actually exercising now with a personal trainer every week, which is really, really awesome, and without pain. He doesn't have to come home after his exercise and take pain medication or steroids. He hasn't been on steroids since he started. And now it's been over 6 months.
That is knuckin' futz.
Yeah. So it's really awesome. I mean, we, like I said, have really great stories and life-changing stories for many individuals, but just to see someone who is debilitated essentially on pain medication regularly and steroids to be able to still enjoy the life he lives with the food that he's eating, but to not have to take medications. He actually probably enjoys his life more now, right?
Probably, or
he definitely does.
Because he's actually said those words.
Yes, yeah.
So how long was he going in the wrong direction? How many weeks, months, years had it been where he just said, this is how my life is? How long was it?
Over 10 years.
So 10 years of his life was, I don't want to say the word wasted because it wasn't wasted. This guy is very successful and he still lived a very full life. However, there was 10 years of his life that he was, I got to be very careful with this too. When I say this, screw it. He was led astray, right? He was led in the wrong direction. He was led by somebody, some professional that said, I know exactly the best way to fix this. And this is the way that we're going to do it. And it was the exact wrong way for him to be fixed. So that's why I'm saying you have to question what you're doing right now. Even if you love your doctor, even if you have an amazing relationship with him, question, is this the right thing? Because they're not being malicious, meaning the doctors are not doing this maliciously. They're not intentionally, cognizantly saying, I know that this is going to ruin this gentleman's life. They think that it's the best intervention, just like I think that my intervention is the best intervention, just like you think that your intervention is the best intervention, right?
Right. And we've talked about this on this podcast before, but it's a time thing and education thing. These doctors are very, very educated, but they're educated to save lives and not necessarily on the holistic, if you want to call it that, but more natural approach to let's look at the gut first. And I will say that more physicians are coming around to it and coming around to understanding how the gut plays into these autoimmune conditions. But then it comes down to a time thing. They don't have time to talk about diet with their patients. They don't see their patients often enough to see if the dietary changes they're making are actually helping them. It takes a lot of educating of the client for them to, if you say, okay, you can't have gluten, they don't even know what gluten is or where gluten can be found, or that
the client does.
The client, or that wheat and gluten is the same thing. So part of us being able to see our clients every week is we can educate the client on that, and we can give them alternatives and give them specifics of, okay, you can't eat this, but let's eat this instead. And then, 2 weeks later, when they're like, ooh, I didn't like that product, or I'm bored with what I'm eating, we have the ability to continue to educate and provide different options for the client. So where I'm getting at with all that is the mainstream physicians in our society don't have the time, and they don't see their patients often enough to do the education that's required.
Because of insurance.
Insurance does not reimburse for education. They do not reimburse for prevention. And so the physicians
Hold on, say that again.
The insurance companies do not reimburse for education, and they do not reimburse for prevention.
That's knucking futz, right?
Yeah.
I want you to get sick, then I'll pay for it.
Right. So, yes, this is where we feel, we know we are successful in helping clients, not just on the pain side and the food allergy side, but the individuals with diabetes or high cholesterol that are just handed medications rather than being educated and helping them break the addiction to sugar. I mean, that is huge and changes people's lives there too. But again, it's a education and accountability thing.
Right. So I guess to summarize everything that you're saying is, I want to make this very clear. We're David going against Goliath, but I'm not saying that Goliath is being malicious. Maybe the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies, you could argue that they are being malicious because they're being driven by money. However, our physicians, our doctors, they're not being malicious. They are just bound by time and what they will actually be reimbursed for. So it's a productivity, it's a business. Healthcare is a business. So they're not being malicious. They're just doing the best they can given the circumstances. However, with that said, this gentleman that we're referring to here spent 10 years of his life being guided by somebody that wasn't able to give him the amount of time and attention that could give him the right answers. So he went from being on multiple medications, including opioids, to 6 months later being on nothing and living his best life in over 10 years.
Right.
within 6 months. That's crazy.
Yes.
Absolutely crazy. And it should go without saying that this particular gentleman and his wife are two of the biggest referral sources that your business has ever experienced.
Yes.
Like they are single-handedly
they are.
scaling your business for you.
Yes, which is amazing. You know, we absolutely love the referrals that they've been able to provide to us. But the reason that they are able to refer so many people is because how amazing both of them look and feel. His wife did a program as well with her own circumstances, but she's been very successful, very strong, working out every single day. And yeah, they're awesome.
Very nice.
So what do you have?
Well, mine probably isn't going to be as exciting as yours. That was really exciting.
Oh, I think it is. He has a changed life as well.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about Jimmy. I'm going to say his name because he's all over the website, testimonials, and he's just an amazing guy. This is a guy that I worked with in probably the first year that I opened, and that's when I first met him. And we worked on back pain and got him better, got things moving again, and I didn't see him for years after that first episode. And I was actually working with somebody else who asked me about him. Hey, have you heard from Jimmy lately? And I said, you know what? I haven't. So I just randomly texted him because this guy was asking me if I heard from him because he said, yeah, he's not doing good. He's in bad shape. His back is not doing good. I'm like, what? Why wouldn't he call me? And there's me being naive, thinking that just because his back hurts that he's immediately going to think about me. But anyways, I reached out to him, and super long story short, his back went out on him. But because the pain felt different with this episode than it did the time that he worked with me, he didn't think to call me for this particular episode. He goes, this just felt way more severe. I thought that it was something different, so I needed to go to the emergency room. He ended up going to the hospital, getting x-rays, MRIs, and the doctors, super long story short, said that this is what your pain is coming from and showed him his MRI, a herniated disc or bulging disc. Now he's just going through the corporate medical system where he's go to physical therapy. So he ends up going to the cookie cutter physical therapist that his doctor referred him to. And he's going 3 times a week, I think it was, for months. And there is at least one, if not 2 episodes where he could not even walk after one of his sessions there because again, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that these PTs were being malicious. However, when you go to a cookie cutter physical therapist and you got your patients on an assembly line because you're seeing 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 patients an hour, you don't have the time to assess each patient individually and say, yes, this intervention is the right intervention for you at this moment. So you just have to give them a one-size-fits-some approach and hand them a sheet of paper that says, here's the protocol, quote unquote protocol, I'm doing air quotes right now, for back pain. Go through and do these exercises essentially on your own, or if you're lucky, you get a tech to guide you through the exercises. And there was at least one time, if not 2, where Jimmy couldn't even walk to leave. Like he had to crawl out of the PT office, and he's like, this is horrible. So I'm actually talking to him back and forth, checking in with him on the tail end of this horrific experience. And I said, Jimmy, just come see me. Just give me one chance. And he goes, well, I'm just going to wait because the doctor told me that I needed to go for X amount of times, and I'm just going to give it a chance, give it a fair chance. And I'm like, you've been giving it a fair chance for how long now? You're not any better. Get your butt down here and see me. Long story short, he comes down and he finally agrees to come see me. Because I said these words, because I know Jimmy, I know his body, and I know him and his personality. I said, Jimmy, I promise you that you will leave feeling better than when you get here. Just let me come look at you. Let me just figure out what's going on. And to give you a little backstory on Jimmy, who this guy is, he's a very, very successful guy. He has built tons of homes, contractor. He's built them up in the Northeast and down on Marco, and this guy just can do it all. He can build a house by himself, bare hands by himself from the bottom to the top. He can do it all. And he's used to doing it all. I mean, he's used to changing the oil on he's got a older Corvette that he's in love with, and he's used to changing the oil on that. He's doing everything around his house. He's a doer. This guy does not sit still, and his back pain got to the point to where he couldn't even walk. I mean, he used to play tennis. He loves going boating, snorkeling, paddleboarding. He is a major, major hiker with his wife. I mean, his wife and my wife are both insane in that realm because they will just hike and walk and bike and do things for days on end. But Jimmy would keep up with her. And it got to the point to where he couldn't even walk. He struggled to get out of bed. He struggled to just live, let alone do anything. So again, fast forward to that first session, he comes down, and the first thing that I do is I look at his pelvic alignment. Like, dude, your pelvis is out of place. There's no way that you're going to be able to move when your pelvis is out of place because all the muscles just lock up and go into spasm. So the first thing we did was fix his pelvis. How long does it take to fix your pelvis?
Less than 5 minutes.
Yeah. When you do it right, less than 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It takes me 5 minutes to teach you how to do it, then 5 seconds to actually do it. So that's the first thing we do. Fix your pelvis. Guess what happened?
He was already feeling better.
He was immediately feeling better.
Mm-hmm.
So after we fix his pelvis, what's the next thing that we do?
Teach him how to keep it fixed.
Teach him how to keep it fixed. The reason why the pelvis comes out of place, out of alignment, is because the muscles surrounding the pelvis are not doing their job. So the next thing we do is we get his glutes fire and get his core fire. And he actually had a very strong core, but the glutes were not doing their job at all. So pelvis in place, get the glutes firing and say, get up, go walk around. How do you feel now? And you should have seen the change of color on his face. Like, it's just, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I'm fragile right now. I feel like I can actually move. This is on day 1. So now I'm going to try to fast forward here. On day 1, he could not bend over and even reach his knees, like with his fingertips. Like if I asked you to bend over and touch your toes, he could not even bend over and reach his kneecaps. Like, it was just too fragile. The back was just not good at all. Fast forward probably a month and a half into it, we got him to be able to bend over and touch his kneecaps. This was another moment where when he did that and stood back up again, you should have seen the look on his face.
Because he didn't have pain standing back up.
Didn't have pain standing back up, but more importantly, because he was able to touch his kneecaps. Mm-hmm. He had not touched his kneecaps in a standing position in almost a year.
Wow. Like
the emotional overjoyment look that was on his face just because he touched his kneecaps. It's like, what the heck? It's because we're doing the right thing now.
Right, right.
Fast forward down the road, we actually get him to be able to touch his toes.
Oh, stop it. Can you touch your toes?
Yes, I can touch my toes.
Well, that's pretty cool. So it just makes me think, I know this is kind of off going a tangent a little bit, but if he couldn't even touch his knees, how do you put shoes on? He had to live in flip-flops or slides. He
had these slip-on shoes on, the ones that you don't have to tie.
Yeah.
And it's funny you say that because once he was able to touch the ground, he's like, I can wear different shoes now because I can actually tie my shoes.
That's what I would think about. I mean, but I'm also a female, but still. Like,
he had 2 pairs of shoes. One pair was a flip-flops, and the other pair were these Sperry's that you didn't have to tie. And those were the only 2 pairs of shoes that he could wear for almost a year.
Wow.
Because he couldn't tie them.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward to, 6-8 months down the road of, he was very dedicated. He worked his tail off, did his homework, came consistently to treatments. And he can do anything that he wants to do now. He's keeping up with his wife. He's going paddleboarding. He's getting in and out of his boat down in the Keys and going snorkeling. He has zero physical limitations now. Zero. Where a year ago, he couldn't do anything. He couldn't even walk. And he thought that that was the way his life was going to be. He just thought that he had a bad back and there was nothing that he could do about it.
I think one of the biggest things from him, just knowing him now, I didn't know him when he was going through all of it, but kind of, I guess I came in maybe in the middle, but the confidence that he has gained is because he was always afraid to do anything, which who wouldn't be when you're in pain constantly and you didn't know when you were going to do something to make the pain a lot worse. But then to be able to build the confidence to know I can do anything and not have a sudden spike of pain.
Yes. I love that part. The amount of confidence that he has now, it's unlimited. There's no task. He sent me a picture a couple of months ago when I checked in on him. He goes, "Yeah, I'm doing great. Check out this tree that I just chopped down." It is this massive, massive, massive tree where you should see the before picture and the after picture where you just look at this thing and it's like, oh my gosh, like I wouldn't do it. Like I'm hiring my buddy and his tree service to come take it down for me, but he did it all by himself. This is the kind of guy that he is.
Wow.
And he couldn't do anything a year ago. So I want to wrap things up, but before we do, I do want to say something very, very important is when Jimmy got caught in the medical system, the reason why he got caught was because his x-rays and his MRI said he had a herniated disc or a bulging disc, whatever it was. They were treating that, meaning that they were saying that that herniated disc is the reason why your back hurts so much. But in reality, it wasn't that. That herniated disc, it might not have even been acute, meaning that it might have not even been new. Where we could go do an x-ray and an MRI right now, and I would put money on it saying that it's exactly the same or very close to what it looked like a year and a half ago whenever he took that original MRI. What was causing his pain was his pelvis was not in proper alignment, and that creates the muscle surrounding it to go into spasm. It's very, very painful. I've experienced it. You've experienced it. There's lots of people that experience it. However, if you're not educated on what's happening, it's very, very scary. Right. Versus when it happens to us, it's not scary anymore because we know, oh, I just need to fix my pelvis, get my glutes firing again.
Right. But to go back to what you're saying is the physicians and the physical therapists were saying, this is what the MRI shows, this is your problem, and this is where your pain is coming from. So they were treating that, but the pain wasn't getting any better because in reality, his pain was coming from the pelvis being out of place.
Correct.
So that's where you come in and your physical therapists come in, that they can actually evaluate the patient head to toe, put their hands on them and figure out the pain's not coming from that herniated disc. The pain's coming from something else versus just looking at a picture and not actually touching the patient to figure out
correct
pain. And that's something similar in our field is, the doctors will do the blood test for rheumatoid arthritis and say, here's your diagnosis. You need to go take this hydroxychloroquine or the methotrexate or the steroids, whatever medication, because that's what your lab work says. But really, what is causing that autoimmune disease? What's causing the rheumatoid arthritis? Or the people with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, the doctors say, here's your diagnosis. You have to live with this. You don't have to live with it. Let's figure out what's causing the breakdown of that gut, of the intestinal tract to lead to these diagnoses.
Yep. Just watch a show in the evening and you'll see at least one advertisement for a medication to treat ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. Yep. And it's like, okay, treat the symptoms, keep living with that Crohn's, or let's figure out why it's happening to begin with.
Or the eczema. psoriasis commercials. I mean, they're endless. And they all, like, every time it comes down to the same thing. I had a patient just last week, and then I'll end. She came to me. She was just diagnosed with Sjogren's disease, which is another autoimmune. And she has not, her primary care sent her to the rheumatologist, but she actually came to us. Now, of course, I recommend seeing the specialist and allowing them to do what they need to do.
You are the specialist, damn it.
Politically correct here. So, but she said, I don't even want to, I want to figure out, was referred by a patient that has already been through something similar and knows that we are able to figure out this inflammatory process and help her from the inside out, as opposed to going to the rheumatologist and getting put on medications. So when we went to do lab work on her, I said, we can continue doing more lab work to find out more about the diagnosis you have, but it's not going to change my treatment plan. Do you want me to do that other lab work, or do you just want to go with how we know we're going to treat it anyways? And that's what we're doing. What's the point of doing more tests to find out a name on a piece of paper for a diagnosis when it's not going to change our treatment plan?
Love it. That's why that is such a synonymous answer to when people ask me if they should get an MRI. Yeah, if you want to have surgery, get one. If you don't.
Or if you just want a piece of paper to say, here's all the diagnoses you have, even though they're not contributing to what's actually going on.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong about that. I mean, I don't hate MRIs. MRIs are very, very valuable when used appropriately as the tool that they are. So if there's a situation where we cannot figure out what's going on and it doesn't present the way that it should, we'll say it. Hey, I really want you to go get an MRI because we need more information here. It's just not making sense. And we generally make that decision sooner than later, meaning that within 3 weeks at the absolute most, we should be seeing something going in the right direction. And if we're not seeing something going in the right direction within 3 weeks, it's like, okay, I either completely missed it or there's something else going on here. What am I going to do? Am I going to reassess everything, or am I going to say, hey, go get an X-ray or an MRI so that we can rule out something else going on? So I don't hate them. They just need to be used as the tool that they are.
Right.
Good.
Cool. Yeah, that was fun.
All right. Longest podcast we've ever done. However, I think it was very, very important that we say those things because everybody listening, should be questioning if what you're doing right now is the right thing. Even if you're working with us, question us. Make us justify it to you. Make me say it out loud. This is the reason why we're doing what we're doing. And if it doesn't make sense to you, or if I can't say it, then you better go somewhere else.
Right. But that's not going to happen, right?
It might.
No, yeah. We have to, like you said, we have to recognize when something is not improving or it's not showing the way we would expect it to. And we have to adjust to that. We have to recommend other testing or evaluation.
Yeah, no God complex here. I'm no way, shape, or form saying that I can fix everybody. However, I'm going to give you my best go. I'm going to do whatever I can to give you all that I got. And if it's not enough, I'm going to point you in the right direction of somebody else that I think does have the right.
Right. We've said it before. We know it's an investment into your health, and we invest that time back into you.
Yep.
Cool.
Was that fun?
Yeah. Ciao for now. Bye.
What? That's it? That's okay.
Thanks for listening. Contact us if you have questions about yourself.
Keep the questions coming. We are keeping track of your questions. We're going to do another episode here shortly on answering your questions. So keep them coming and keep on keeping on, baby.
Ciao for now. Thank you for subscribing on your social media and podcast platforms to the Berman Method. Dr. Jake Berman with Berman Physical Therapy and Jenny Berman, Physician Assistant with Berman Health and Wellness. You can find more information on our website, www.bermanpt.com for physical therapy, bermanpt.com/wellness for the health and wellness. You can also find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and on your podcast platform. So be sure to follow us, like us, subscribe to us. And if you would like any further information, definitely visit our website and reach out to us. You may also find our free reports on the websites as well, where you can download this free information for yourself. Have a great day.